From KPFK in Los Angeles, California, Valley Free Radio in Florence, Massachusetts, WNUC in Detroit, and BikeTalk.org worldwide, this is Bike Talk.
Bike Talk?
Welcome to Bike Talk. I'm Taylor Nichols.
And I'm Nick Richard.
Hey, Nick, I think you and I, and probably most of our listeners, are the kind of people that can't go past a bike store without going in, right?
But I could drive by one.
You can drive by, but you can't walk by one or ride by one.
Gotta stop.
Well, I was up in Ojai, California over this last weekend, and there was a bike shop right next to the hotel where we were staying. And sure enough, I walked in. And, it's kind of funny because, some bike stores, when you walk in, they're not all that happy to see you, if you're not in a racing kit or something like that. And these guys at this store just spoke up and started talking to me. And, I said, I do this little radio show and podcast, and I'd love to talk to someone. And the guy who I was talking to said, oh, you got to talk to this guy right away. And so he pointed me to him, and I started talking to him. And turns out he's doing a long bike trip. And I spent about a half hour in there just looking at what they had, finding out about the world of cycling in Ojai, California. It's called the Mob Bike Shop.
MOB. Is that an acronym?
Yes. But we have to listen to the interview to find out what the acronym is for. I guess we should play it, eh? So I'm up in Ojai, California, about an hour and a half north of Los Angeles. And, you can't go by a bike store without going in. I walk into the Mob Shop and I meet Brent Muth. Well, tell me about the shop here.
It's Mob Shop. So
Mob Shop in Ojai, California.
Ojai, California. It started out as Miners Oaks Bicycle Shop. That's where MOB, the Mob Shop, comes from. We've been in this location for about 12 years now. It's an old gas station that's been converted in.
Love that. Get rid of cars.
Yeah, and they actually did a great job. Everything was built sustainably, and so it's just a wonderful shop. And the thing that I really honestly, I work here on the weekends.
Right.
And the thing that I love about this shop is, sometimes you go into bike shops if you're not on the right bike or the right attitude, the right kit, whatever it is.
Yeah.
We're just happy people are on bikes.
Yeah,
and
totally.
so we just have people come in, and, we get a lot of tourists from LA. And so we just come in and send them out, and, we rent bikes and we give them routes. We have stuff on our website. And when we're done here talking, I'll point you in the right direction. And it's just, you get out and it's just quiet and peaceful. It's back roads. Right. The only traffic is locals, and they give you a wide berth. It's really nice. So it's just a quiet. And
there is a bike path through town. And
I
think that goes all the way down to the ocean.
Yes, right? You can ride literally out the front door of the Mob Shop. You can go all the way, I think it's 14 and a half miles down to Ventura to the ocean and turn around and come back. It's an old converted, it's a rails to trails.
It's a rail trail, right.
And it was converted, I think it was one of the first ones west of the Mississippi, actually, if I'm not mistaken. So it's been around a long time. Yeah. It's a neat place because the city itself doesn't allow franchises or chain stores.
I didn't think so. And he's getting ready to do a ride across the country. Tell me about it, Brent.
So I'm retiring from teaching after 31 years.
Wow, what do you teach?
I did junior high.
Wow. that's
so I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready to retire. And so in the fall, I'm going to fly into Burlington, Vermont.
Wow, yeah.
And then I'm going to ride across Vermont, New Hampshire, drop down into Boston over to Springfield, Massachusetts, because I want to see the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Oh, very good.
And then I'm going to drop down from there through Connecticut into New York City. I got some friends. I ran our Washington, D.C., New York trip for 8th graders for 22 years.
Wow.
So one of the things, I want to see the fall colors in Vermont.
Sure, yeah.
And so
my partner on the show is in Western Massachusetts, just so you know.
Oh, okay, yeah. And actually one of the things I am doing is, and we'll connect a little bit more, is I'm actually reaching out to other bike shops and other school districts, seeing if, hey, is there anybody that'll let me throw my tent down in their yard for the night or a place to stay? So I'm reaching out that way.
Have you heard about warm showers?
Yeah, warm showers. I haven't signed up for that yet, but it's on the radar.
Right. And how about adventure cycling?
Yep, adventure cycling. I use a few of their maps. I've done a few of their rides. Once I get out of New York, I'm going to cut down to Philadelphia. I want to see, I like history, so I'm going to see a bunch of that. Philadelphia, down to D.C. Once I hit D.C., I'm going to cut into Charlottesville, go to Monticello, see that.
Oh, yeah, Thomas Jefferson.
Yep. And then I'm I'm going to cut down. There's a pretty rail trail, New River Rail Trail down through there. And then I'm going to head over to Knoxville, Tennessee. My daughter's a student at UT, so
wow.
we'll go to
You
there.
see her?
Yep. And then going to ride the Natchez Trace Trail down to southern Mississippi there. And then...
Oh, so you're going to go south.
So I have a touring partner that isn't retired.
Somebody has to work.
Someone has to do it. But we usually bookend our trips with baseball stadiums. So we did the C&O in the Gap. We went to D.C. and then finished in Pittsburgh. We did the OTET in Cincinnati to Cleveland.
Yeah. Well, it's the Mob Shop bicycle store in Ojai, California, and it's a beautiful place. They welcomed me in, and good luck on your tour, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm at the Ojai Farmers Market on Sunday morning, and I run into Annette, and she's got a beautiful e-cargo bike about cycling without age. Hey, Annette, and tell me about what Cycling Without Age is.
Cycling Without Age is an international nonprofit organization that started in 2012 in Copenhagen that takes elderly and people who are mobility challenged out for free bike rides.
Oh, that's great. And you're the pilot, I guess.
I'm the pilot.
Yeah.
Yep. And we just are seeking people to take out so that we can share the joy of bicycling and of nature and community. It's all about community. It's all about getting people who are isolated out.
In the fresh air, right? The wind in their hair.
Yes. That's what it's about.
That's great. How many people have you had today?
Well, today I'm actually trying to recruit pilots because... Right now, we're new in Ojai, just starting off, and it's just me.
Right.
So, the more people I have that will take the trishaw out, the more people I can offer this opportunity to.
Right.
So
people in Ojai, they reach out to Cycling Without Age, and then you go to their residence or wherever they are and pick them up and take them for a spin?
Yeah, kind of like that. There's a lot of senior residents living areas. I take them every Monday from 1:30 to 3:30. I get 3 or 4 riders, and I give them rides. And then we have other assisted living that I go to, and then we're trying to connect, or we are connecting with Meals on Wheels to reach out to people who are by themselves at home. Right.
Well, I bet they just love it.
They do. Yeah. They love it once they get out and try it.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people are a little nervous and intimidated at first, but once they experience it, it's like being reborn.
Yeah, I love that. Well, we just did a whole story on pilot training for tandems for sight-impaired people. So this sounds like it's kind of the same thing.
Absolutely. I have taken several blind people out, and just the fresh air and the smells and the birds
and the movement, I think, is a big part of it.
The movement, the getting out and hearing what's going on in the community. Yeah. Absolutely. We can also take with our trishaw wheelchair. People who are in wheelchair, the seat comes out, and we can strap them in here. Right. So, well, I got into this because I love cycling, and I know what it means for me to get out and be just outside. So I like to share this joy, and it really, really is. I mean, it gives me so much joy.
Yeah. I'm with you 100%.
As much as you know, I mean, you did something good. You made someone happy. I mean, what better thing is that, right?
And you get to ride the bike also.
And I get to ride the bike. You know, it's an e-bike.
Yeah.
So if I have trouble, I can room.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks for being here today. I love Cycling Without Age.
And it is international. It's in LA, so we're trying to promote it.
Well, thank you very much.
Pilots. Yeah. Thank you.
The second bit of sound on that was the Cycling Without Age, which is just such a wonderful program. I really enjoyed talking to the woman about it, and you could tell just from her voice that she just loved doing what she was doing. And I think that the more people we can get out on bikes, even in the front of an e-bike, is a win-win.
All right, so this is also in Ojai.
Yep.
So this week is the League of American Bicyclists Bike Summit.
Are we going to have anybody there getting some sound for us or not?
That's the plan.
Good. Because I got to tell you, you said that you've been before. I've never been. I would like to go. I'd like to meet some of the people that we have on the show, Karen Whitaker and some of those people, meet them in person and just be around. I'd like to go to Lobby Day and see how that works with talking to some of our Congress people about the importance of bike projects.
It's great. I had a really good time. DC is fun, and you get to see everything. Of course, now it's a pall over it, but we'll go next year, where after November brings good news.
I'm all for that.
How about some news from Charlie?
Charlie's news. Here we go.
This is Charlie with this week's news. From Momentum Mag, Cambridge, Massachusetts has become a shining example for what happens when a city invests in cycling infrastructure. According to rider counts in 16 locations in the city, ridership is up 250% from 2004 to 2024. And since 2014, the number of children riding as passengers or alone is up 283%. Amazingly, with the increase in ridership, there's actually been a 41% decrease in the citywide bicycle crash rate. This was all made possible in part due to reduced speed limits on most streets, as well as a cycling safety ordinance requiring the installation of separated bike lanes when certain major streets are reconstructed. From AnnaLeahMary.com, on April 15th, there will be a Stop Underrides National Town Hall via Zoom from 8 to 9 Eastern Time. The town hall will give participants the opportunity to tell their U.S. senators and representatives about the Stop Underrides Act of 2026. The law would require trucks to have strong underride guards to prevent pedestrians, cyclists, motorcycles, and even cars from going underneath trucks in what are often fatal crashes. For more information, go to AnnaLeahMary.com. From the Washington Post, bike lanes on 15th Street next to the National Mall are expected to be removed starting Monday, March 23rd to make room for increased traffic for the upcoming National Cherry Blossom Festival and America's 250th anniversary. Federal Highway Administration spokesperson Melissa Braid said this is part of the president's initiative to revitalize Washington, D.C. and return common sense into city planning. Braid also said the bike lanes reduced roadway capacity, but a 2026 DDOT study shows a decrease in all crashes by 46% and bicycle injury crashes by 91%. Car travel times were also faster after the lanes were installed, directly contradicting Braid's claims. From Streetsblog NYC, the NYPD will stop handing out criminal summonses to cyclists for minor traffic offenses. The policy began under the Adams administration and was not based on actual data. After months of upholding the policy, it seems Mamdani is starting to take steps to end what Streetsblog calls the war on cycling. The Department of Transportation will launch an online safety program for delivery workers next month in 6 different languages. The official end to criminal summonses is set to take effect on Friday, March 27th.
I love the decriminalization of biking in New York, that Mayor Mamdani is taking away the Adams program that was not just ticketing cyclists, but actually, making them go to criminal court, right?
Yeah, very
Crazy.
Scary. Glad he's gone.
And also the Stop Underrides Act that Charlie was talking about is a callback to Stephen Bingham's listener email from last week. And that brings up the listener email this week.
Yes, we have a listener email. Someone took us up on our offer of stickers for reviews.
For positive reviews.
Positive, yes. It has to be positive. You can't give it negative. Dear friends, attached is my review of Bike Talk. I would love to have your sticker. Let me add this comment. Sometimes it sounds like cyclists can do no wrong. I'm sorry, but I have seen a number of cyclists who just race through red lights and stop signs. When I drive through a green light, I expect that no pedestrian or cyclist will be running out in front of me, although I'm always on the lookout. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Thanks for the podcast. I'm sure it's real work to put together an episode every week. I want you to know that I sincerely appreciate the effort that you put into it. I truly wait each week for the next episode to appear. Terry Fitzgerald, a.k.a. Baltimore Fred. He's from Baltimore.
Well, you got to love that name, Baltimore Fred. And that's not the review. That's just what he wrote to us in the listener email.
And I have to say, I agree with him. Cyclists can do no wrong.
Do you stop at stop signs and stoplights on your bike?
Well, I feel like stop signs should be a yield, And
Totally.
Stop lights, if no one's there, I feel silly just
waiting.
And some people have a problem with that.
Well, I am very careful going through a red light. I slow down, and if there is traffic, I stop and wait. But if there's no traffic, I go on through and don't worry too much about it. And that's from Baltimore Fred. But now let's read his review of our show.
If you have any interest in cycling, you should be listening to this podcast. It's a great source of bike news from across the country. It's also something like a variety show with relevant and varied interviews. The hosts have appropriate conversation, but they do not waste your time with endless banter. I'm very fortunate that I came across it.
Well, that's really nice. Thank you very much, Terry, or Baltimore Fred. That's a nice review. It's nice to know, Nick, that people do appreciate the show and appreciate what we bring to the show. And it is kind of a variety show. We do try to cover, a lot of different aspects of the world of cycling.
Yeah. And so, Terry, you get a sticker.
Just one sticker?
No, several
for that?
stickers. A big one and some little ones.
So you get stickers.
Our first, what do you call these? The headliner interviews?
Yeah.
Farah Naz, who co-authored the University of Texas-Arlington study on autonomous vehicles, which was quoted in Vox. And
it's an important interview because at least I thought that AVs and EVs, autonomous vehicles and electric vehicles, were going to, save the planet. And I don't think they are. It was an interesting study, and it's an interesting interview with Farah, and she explains the good and the bad of autonomous vehicles. We've been talking a lot about AVs, autonomous vehicles or automated vehicles, and how they will save the planet. But we're not really sure that they will save the planet. And we have an adjunct professor from the University of Texas-Arlington here, Farah Naz, who has written a paper with Stephen Mattingly about the pros and cons and what we can expect from AVs. So Farah, welcome to Bike Talk.
Thank you.
I wanted to jump in. I first heard of your study from Vox. And I think it's a pretty important study, right? Because a lot of the thinkers that I look at, about, I guess, transportation, urbanism, are saying that AVs are going to increase car dependency, or VMT, vehicle miles traveled, when they're saying, and put more cars on the street. We were on Bike Talk saying how great it is to have a car that will stop for you and whose driver is not drunk or texting. But you make both of those findings in this study, and it's a meta study. So it's a pretty comprehensive study, right? Do you want to talk about the study itself?
Absolutely. What our study looked at is how automated vehicle could, affect how much driving happens overall, which we measured using the vehicle miles traveled, or VMT. I think the main message we were trying to give there is AVs may create risk of, increasing total driving if they're introduced without a thoughtful policy guardrail or any planning. It definitely matters because more driving can work against goals like, reducing congestion or lowering emission and creating safer or more people-friendly streets, because how much exposure it's going to provide with, biking and walking.
How did you find that using autonomous vehicles might result in more vehicle miles traveled? It was because it's easier to commute longer, for one, if you're in a self-driving car?
There are a few different factors that works with it. One is it can make it more convenient. People who doesn't have access to mobility, who cannot drive, they can also use vehicles, right? They will also make more trips. At the same time, the empty vehicle miles traveled, which happens when the vehicle repositions itself, or vehicle is looking for parking, maybe looking for a lower cost parking, or the operating speed is so good that people want to make more trips. Those can definitely increase vehicle miles traveled.
They're driving around looking for parking when you're not in the car. Then there's a difference between shared autonomous vehicles and private ones, right?
For example, if I was owning an autonomous vehicle, I might own one car for the whole family. So where it will drop off my husband, it will drop me off at my work, or I will go with my kid to drop her off, and then I will go to my work, and then it will reposition itself to go somewhere park, or maybe come back home, right? So all this repositioning and picking up and dropping off trips is going to add more miles to it. Sometimes when we go to a central business district or a downtown, and the parking is super expensive there, I know in Boston it was super expensive when I was living there. I may not want my autonomous vehicle to park there where I have to pay for $30 an hour or something like that. I may want that autonomous vehicle to drop me off at my workplace or wherever I wanted to go at my destination, and then go figure out a low-cost parking somewhere else. So it could be far away from it dropped me off. So it's adding more miles to it. And then when it comes back to pick me up, again, it's adding more miles to the trip. Rather than if I was driving, I could have just parked somewhere near where I was trying to get to my destination.
You talk about policy being in place to prevent the increase in VMT with autonomous vehicles. What kind of policies can we be thinking about now, and can we be fighting for in the near future that would make autonomous vehicles the panacea? I'm not sure what the right word is, that we're hoping that they could be.
Right now, the trend is against us in hoping that it's a panacea, like from what I'm getting in my social media.
Well, that's social media, but Farah is a professor of transportation, and I wonder if, you know...
Well, I found out about Farah from social media, just to give social media some credit.
Great.
Okay. It's not a panacea. We cannot say, it can magically solve all the problems. We have to put it into context. The type of policies we are saying, maybe pricing empty miles. We have to, regulate carb space. We have to think about the carb management, because there will be a lot of drop-off and picking up happening if we are not driving our own car. It requires data reporting. It requires, prioritizing shared rides over single occupant trips. We have to make sure that AVs are not competing with transit or biking or walking. Rather, it's actually complementing those modes. And AVs are not going to, by itself make trips more sustainable or more safer. We'll have to think about the exposure. We'll have to think about how we are designing our streets. Are we protecting our biking, walking mode? How we are pricing, how we are putting up policies so it's not really encouraging more trips, or even if it's giving mobility to the people who doesn't have mobility access right now. But it has to be carefully planned for each specific context.
I live in Los Angeles, and we have a lot of shared AVs. Mm-hmm. I'm blanking on the name of the company, Waymo.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
I've blocked them out. Are very prevalent in my neighborhood. I haven't seen any private AVs yet, but it seems like shared AVs is a step, or could be a step, in the right direction. I know it doesn't solve all the problems, but it does solve some of the ones that you were speaking about parking the AVs, or at least parking them more, and empty miles, which I love that term.
I think those are also trying to park at cheaper. They have to pay for parking, even though they're shared?
So for the shared ones, they can just go from dropping off one passenger and then go pick up another one. I was in Georgia, and we asked for a Waymo to come pick us up. It was picking us up, and then it will go to the next trip. There could be some buffer, like if it's in 5 miles, go pick up that trip.
So it's like a Lyft or Uber, but those displace transit, don't they? They compete with transit.
You could say that, but I think there are ways that we can plan on how to use AVs for first mile, last mile access, rather than exactly competing with transit itself.
So that would be what, like putting a tax on it, or how would you do that?
For, stopping it from
displacing transit. Yeah.
Displacing transit. Maybe more pricing empty miles, or
I guess you could dynamic price it so that even it is priced higher when it goes along a route of a transit route or something like that. I don't know if that would work.
That's a very good thinking, because if it's competing with in the same route for transit, that could happen. But if it's going to a neighborhood where there is not many mobility access, but this is giving them mobility access to come get a transit, that could be lowered. Yeah.
Right.
The price could be lowered for that. Yeah.
Autonomous vehicles can make long commutes more palatable, more pleasant, because you can be working. So you can live farther away. So this will possibly increase sprawl.
Yes. Yeah.
So this is what they're talking about. But the other part is that it can be safer.
Yes. Yeah. But at the same time, we have to think about, how it's exposing the walking and biking people to it. So I think we have to place in the strategies to see how much exposure there is and then how much safety benefits it's bringing in for maybe per mile. We may have to think about, protected biking structure, protected walking structure, so that the cities can have goodness from all of those modes.
So this is a meta study, right? That means you looked at other studies. You took a certain number of studies and you just compiled the findings?
So we took VMT information from 26 different published articles, and we put them in a meta-analysis model. Each study had multiple VMT numbers based on different contexts. So we took them, we did a multi-level meta-analysis, and then we took the average, and that told us, AV's impact is not neutral. There's a positive impact. When I say positive, that means there will be increase in VMT.
I think it was like 5-6%.
It was 5.3% for the shared and 6.9% for the non-shared automated vehicle.
And just to be clear, we see that as a negative impact, not a positive impact.
Yeah. So when we are talking statistically, it means, it's not a zero or neutral, or, there is no impact or something. There is impact, but in a negative way, yes.
Yes.
The main thing I want to say is, the AV is innovative, no question about it. But technology itself cannot solve all our problems. So we have to be very strategically thinking about, how we use those technology to work in favor of us rather than, competing against something that is already working or we're having hard time to keep it like transit. We have to be very careful about, how we are, deploying our technologies in street. And street designs cannot be, replaced by AVs. Street designs have to be there. Careful planning has to be there.
As you're talking, it reminds me of invasive species.
I was just going to say, it really seems like AVs and EVs are not going to save us. That we need to keep moving forward in how we develop our transportation systems and move away from Vs altogether, meaning vehicles, and, promote more Bs as in bikes and Fs as in feet. But
have you noticed that this study had a lot of traction, Farah?
Yes, it's great. I mean, I think we were looking at something which was timely. We also had this question personally when this technology talks came around. We are happy to work on something that's informing the policymakers, informing people.
Well, the takeaway for me from the article, and again, the article is called Assessing Automated Vehicles Induced VMT. It was a meta-analysis, and it was by yourself, Farah Naz, and Stephen Mattingly of the University of Texas-Arlington. But the takeaway for me was that we have to be out in front of this, and we have to come up with policies that will affect how AVs are implemented on our streets. Just like we're talking a lot on Bike Talk now about e-bikes, and we have to be out in front of the laws that are affecting e-bikes as well. So Farah, your study was really interesting. I really enjoyed reading it and going through it. Thank you for coming on Bike Talk. and illuminating all of the pros and cons of AVs, automated and autonomous vehicles.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me to this talk.
I guess we know now the goods and the bads of AVs, autonomous vehicles, and we've been talking a lot about the goods and the bads of e-bikes. And, I think you and I believe that e-bikes really are a game changer, but we've got this e-moto problem that is mucking everything up and getting laws written in places and that are changing things. So you got a really good interview.
Yeah, we got in touch with someone named Bob Mittelstaedt of e-bike access because he was quoted in the New York Times article, The Dangers of E-Bikes, which we talked about a while back. And he brought Asha Weinstein Agrawal, who wrote a report for the Mineta Transportation Institute on e-bikes. And so Bob and Asha talk about illegal e-bikes, what we should consider when categorizing e-bikes and illegal e-bikes.
I think we should just use the term illegal e-moto and stop using illegal e-bike because, we've talked with Jim Pokras, our lawyer, about class 1, 2, and 3 e-bikes, and those are all legal and should be legal and really can help get more people on bikes and get more people riding bikes further. But it's the e-moto that is, like I said earlier, mucking everything up. E-motos have their place also. They just have to be regulated. There, I said it.
Like motorcycles.
Right.
Yeah. So here's Bob and Asha. I'm with Asha Weinstein Agrawal and Bob Mittelstaedt. Bob, you're a co-founder of the nonprofit E-Bike Access. Asha, you released a report from the Mineta Transportation Institute. We know Bob because he was cited in the article Dangers of E-Bikes in the New York Times recently. And we had a whole panel about that discussion. And we were concerned that it made e-bikes seem dangerous.
Some of the statistics shared were puzzling.
Tell us about your report from the Mineta Transportation Institute, Asha.
A couple of years ago, State Senator Dave Min from Southern California, Orange County, had come to the Institute to explain that he supported e-bikes, thought they were great, but was wondering if they were safe enough because there were a lot of reports and concerns of crashes. So in the end, he got a state legislative bill passed, and the Mineta Transportation Institute was directed to spend a couple of years gathering all the information we could on data about the actual danger of riding e-bikes, as well as insights that might help the state develop policy responses to the problem, but also opportunity that e-bikes offer as a inexpensive, convenient mode of transportation.
And what did you find?
It's a very complicated topic. There are clearly people who do get very seriously injured, occasionally die from e-bikes. As a lot of media has reported, the numbers are going up, but it's also important to recognize that we're going up from almost nothing. Overall, there are still appear to be far more crashes, injuries that involve conventional bicycles, just as a sort of point of comparison to electric bikes. And of course, all of that is dwarfed by the number of people who are in motor vehicles when they're injured. So in terms of do we have a safety problem? Yes, there certainly are people being injured. I think that can be greatly reduced, but it's also been taken a little out of proportion. So just for example, in California in 2023, the data from patients who visited hospitals showed 9 times more people injured in conventional bicycle incidents than electric bicycle. And I think
it was 60 times more were injured by cars, right?
Yes. So then we also looked at a number of policy issues. And I think one of the key insights that we came away with is, first of all, and I don't think this is going to be new to most people, but there are a lot of devices being ridden, I'll call them bicycle-shaped devices that are electric, that look like an e-bike, but do not, by any stretch of the imagination, meet the California legal definition of what an e-bike is. And then when we collect data, however, when our police do or medical professionals, these bicycle-shaped devices tend to get lumped in with e-bikes. So it makes it difficult to know how dangerous legal e-bikes are. But I would say without any doubt, they're clearly not as dangerous as the data is probably even showing, because these other devices are getting mixed in.
So Taylor just joined us. We also have Bob. I'm sorry, go on, Asha.
No. So, and then one other thing that I think is has not been discussed much, is that I think the state may want to adjust their definition of e-bikes in a way that I think would only perhaps add one word to the motor vehicle code, but could have quite important implications. So,
and what's that word?
Peak. That word is peak, P-E-A-K. So right now, California, like most other states, says that electric bicycles can have a maximum motor wattage of 750 watts. But it does not state whether this is peak power or continuous power. So, and I'm no mechanical engineer, but working on this project, I've come to understand the pretty basic fact that peak power is what your motor can, the most it can ever produce. And it certainly can't sustain that for any length of time without burning out. Continuous power, in contrast, is what it sounds like. It's the power that your motor can sustain over time, say for your hour bike ride. Continuous power is always going to be lower than peak power. It's just sort of a law of the way we make motors. Now, I think what may be happening, it seems likely, is that there is some ambiguity. Is the law talking about peak or continuous power? Some manufacturers may be interpreting this as continuous power. And if you have a device, a bicycle, with 750 watts of continuous power, that's 1 horsepower, by the way. That's approximately what 750 watts is. So literally, people have the power of a 800,000 pound horse at their disposal riding an e-bike. And that is a lot of power. It is completely out of line with the regulations in most of the rest of the world. So if you look at China, at Japan, at the European Union, the laws typically defining e-bikes say that an e-bike can have a maximum continuous power of something more like 250 or 300 watts. So actually, what we came to realize, and this is where that word peak comes back, that if California were to modify the vehicle code to say that an e-bike had to be with less than 750 watts of peak power, that would essentially bring us in line with the rest of the world. You would now have a bicycle with a continuous power of, 250, 300 watts, which essentially makes you a pro cyclist. And again, you think a lot of your listeners are, avid cyclists, and we would all be pretty happy if we could sustain over time the power that, champion pro cyclist has. The power of a horse seems maybe a little extreme if we are going to regulate these devices as a bicycle, which I think it is amazing and wonderful that people who, for whatever reason, can't have a driver's license can still have an electric device. It's just that I think probably they should have more the power of, say, a pro cyclist and not a horse if they're not going to have a license and other things like that.
Yeah, sounds reasonable.
If I can just say a word or two about the report and my perspective on it. First of all, it is, for anybody who has started to read the 200 plus pages, it's an epic tour de force, and Asha and Kevin, co-authors, should be congratulated. It's a great report. The part that I focused on is the conclusion that the illegal, overpowered electric devices are, as you describe it, the key problem. And that's been the focus of our nonprofit e-bike access for the last 2 years. And our view is that the first step is to identify the problem, diagnose before prescribing, and then prescribe based on what the problem is. So if the problem, as I believe it is, and as the New York Times article says, and as Asha's report says, it's not the legal class 2 or any of the class e-bikes. It's these, what we call e-motos, e-motorcycles. That's where our focus should be. And to me, the solution there is we've got enough laws. We just need our state attorney general and we need our county district attorneys to enforce the law and bring actions against these manufacturers that are selling the e-motos as e-bikes. Normally when you've got a law that's being broken, you've got the public officials charged with enforcing the law doing something about it.
What would the laws be? Would they be to register that e-moto as a motorcycle? Would they be to license the driver? Would they be that person has to have insurance? I'm curious what the laws are.
Well, here's the point. These are already illegal, and they're illegal for those reasons. It's like, a 12-year-old riding a Harley Davidson.
Could I just interject one small point? I believe they're illegal on streets and roads.
Correct.
So in theory, you could buy it and ride around your private ranch or something like that.
As we all know, that's a wink and a nod. We don't have tens of thousands of kids riding this to ride in their backyard. But I will take that correction. I'm talking about street legal. It's one thing to say in theory, we've got a lot of illegal, not street legal motorcycles out there the kids are riding, but the police and parents have a hard time identifying which are those brands. We've been pushing to just name names. And Asha's report identifies, I think, 4 or so brands that are cross the line. Our website has something called a rogue e-moto gallery that lists 42 or so.
Bob, can you name some of those brands for us now? Just because I don't think I know what they are. And I'm sure that our listeners don't either.
JCN, Electric, Ride One Up, Movcan, Ridstar, Hopsco, Aerial Rider, Super 73, and the list goes on and on and on.
Wow. Those are brands, Nick, I've never even heard of. Have you heard of those before?
No.
In Asha's report, she cites a study that we did in Marin and in San Mateo counties, where we went around and counted what was actually at the schools. And then we got the brands, and our research was as simple as going to the websites of the brands and see what they advertise. And you will be astonished at how many advertise motors above 750, capable of far over 20 miles per hour. These manufacturers are competing on speed. It's a race to the top, and they call these e-bikes. And a lot of them say they're street legal.
It's good that the people who understand the value of e-bikes are trying to get in front of this, because it's hurting the cause of replacing car trips, of getting people, who wouldn't otherwise be able to get around on e-bikes. It's hurting all of that to have this confusion.
Absolutely. And Nick, that's how we got into this. I've been advocating to allow Class 1 e-mountain bikes up on Mount Tamalpais, the home of mountain biking. After all, we ought to be allowed up there. We now have a pilot program, but it took us 5 years to get it. But a couple of years ago, we started getting pushback from local groups saying, if we allow you old guys and gals on your e-mountain bikes, the next thing you know, we're going to have kids on their throttle devices. So we started researching that. And what we found are most of these cross the line into motorcycles, and they are causing the high accident rate for kids 10 to 15. So we were concerned and still are concerned about the backlash. And that's why we're trying to focus on, as Asha's report and press release do, on these illegal, overpowered electric devices.
What's the next step? I mean, is it using your report, Asha, to get in the hands of lawmakers to add that word peak?
It's a complicated issue. Right. And I have certainly changed my mind what I think we should do many times while writing this report. So it really needs a debate and discussion. And I do agree that the e-motos are a major problem, but I do think that not dealing with the peak continuous power leaves open loopholes. All of these devices, the amount of power your motor is producing is limited by software and then to some extent by the mechanical components. And there are two things. One is that I'm worried someone will sell a 3,000 watt device and say, hey, our software limits it to 750 watts continuous power. They don't tell you how to override that, but it's just sort of lying there waiting for somebody to figure out how to do it, which could be easy or it could be more difficult. So if you set the motor power as a peak of 750, you're not going to have these super powerful devices kind of floating around there with a wink and a nod that they're actually e-bikes. Then the throttle versus pedal assist. The throttle bike, it's like a motorcycle, you turn a switch or whatever, and you don't need to pedal. I initially was very convinced that throttle bikes must be much more dangerous than pedal assist until I went and rode, and I'm not going to name a brand just because sort of that's not my role here, that I went to a local bike shop in the Bay Area and discovered that this bicycle with the pedal assist mode had settings. They just called them settings, which I've come to learn now are sort of the power assist ratio. So for every amount of force you put as a human pedaling it, the motor amplifies that by some ratio or proportion. And so depending on the setting I used, if I had it on its sort of most powerful setting, I could rotate the pedals like half of a revolution. I didn't even have to do a full revolution and the bicycle would shoot off. The focus on eliminating throttles or at least making it so you need a license or to be 16 or whatever to have those devices is not necessarily going to solve all of our problems if manufacturers just get very creative about selling these pedal assist devices that honestly act more like a throttle. There's actually seems to be a big kind of debate within the European bike industry, at least from my casual internet observations. The German bike industry advocacy organization is recommending that the European Union adopt a maximum assist ratio of 4. So the motor can't add more than 4 times what the rider
the power
is producing. And in Japan, actually, they do have the assist ratio set at something very low. I think it's like 2.5 or something like that. If we had a maximum 750 watt peak power, you could still have some of these issues with very high assist ratios, but I think it would be less. And so I think it could help with that problem as well.
I agree. I think this is a very innovative suggestion that is in Asha's report to focus on maximum acceleration. Asha, I remember talking about this, and my concern is that if you ban throttles, which I think you should, what we're going to get is exactly what you've described. We've already seen this with some manufacturers who are now combining a class 1 and class 3, which is just a dodge to let kids under 16 ride a class 1 and then shift it into class 3. So there's no limit to what these manufacturers will do. The difficulty with maximum acceleration and the assist ratio is you need different criteria for a mom who's got 2 to 3 kids on the back of her bike, trying to go up a hill, cargo deliveries. It's complicated, but I think it's very innovative and creative to look at that.
Where can people find the report that you did, Asha? Also, Bob, you mentioned something where you could get all the illegal brands.
Well, yeah, ours is on our website, eBike Access. We've got a section on e-motos, and it's called Rogue E-Moto Gallery.
And our report is up on the Mineta Transportation Institute website. It's right at the top. The URL for the institute is transweb.sjsu.edu. MTI is part of San Jose State University.
And we'll put it on biketalk.org.
Thank you very much. We will keep looking at this issue because it is a complicated issue. I hadn't even thought of some of these things, and I love adding the word peak. I hadn't even realized there was a difference in continuous motor output and peak motor output. So always learning something new. Thanks for coming on Bike Talk.
Thank you for having us.
We will keep on the e-bike, e-moto, legal, illegal aspect of this changing environment because it really is a fast-moving problem.
We have this interview from our friend at Battle Road Bikes in Lexington, Massachusetts, and the Executive Director of MassBike, Massachusetts Bike Coalition, Galen Mook, a.k.a. Mookmaster Bikes.
and they're going to talk about the fear of e-bikes and what they're doing about it at MassBike.
We are here with Jim Cadenhead and Mookmaster Bikes. Jim is also a bike shop owner and advocate here in Massachusetts. But Jim, how are you doing out there?
Yeah, we're doing okay. We're dealing with the seemingly nonstop pressures from folks about e-bikes. That seems to be a huge topic of conversation these days. I think as an advocate, e-bikes are a great way to get folks onto bikes. But one of the things that I'm seeing as someone who deals with consumers is a sense of fear and outrage. There's a misunderstanding that kids are going to kill themselves on these things and e-bikes are the danger on the bike path.
Gotcha. I mean, the fear can be valid, but I think what people are really afraid of are not e-bikes. They're like the e-motos, the faster devices that are electric that can go, 40, 50, 60 miles an hour that teenagers are on. So that's valid. What you're seeing is kind of a conflating of those arguments. Is that what I'm seeing on your end?
The reality is that the fear that people have is of cars. They're afraid that the cars are the things that kill people. It's not the e-bikes. There might be bad behavior. And same with e-motos. E-motos especially gives folks an opportunity to really get into trouble quick. The problem is that cars are the things that are killing people, and we're not addressing the actual issue by talking about infrastructure specifically for bikes or anything else. We're just simply saying, let's ban stuff. I think we're entering a dangerous territory where we're letting folks who are not educated dictate policy or fearmonger,
Yep, I hear you there. So we are trying to nip that in the bud. At my role at MassBike, I was part of the Micromobility Commission that just came out with the report. Over an 8-month or so period, we were basically having these conversations hosted by the state DOT, but it had state police involved, it had advocates involved, it had industry involved. And the goal is not just e-bikes, but all the scooters and the e-motos, et cetera. What are we going to do to classify and regulate and have operating restrictions or allowances? Have you read the report? Because it just came out about a month ago or so, but it's a pretty extensive thing. I'll share it here and I'll send it over to Bike Talk to put on the page. It's a lengthy document that our goal is to be used by advocates to make sure that you're sending this to your town reps, you're sending it to your police departments and saying, hey, no, there is a sensible recommendation that's coming from the state. Now, none of this is law, none of this is rules, but it is guidelines that allows us to have a real honest conversation about what we're seeing and kind of avoid the fear mongering.
That document is probably one of the best that I've seen. And I think that we definitely should share that. We're working here to try and dispense that information in such a way that is palatable. So we've kind of scheduled some forums and trying to get some education going on so that parents are buying the right thing. Our consumers know what it is that they're getting. So many folks are getting things online. And it's so easy to do now that people are just ordering these things that are not actually recognized in the state of Massachusetts as e-bikes. So that's a problem. Particularly the budget level bikes, they're starting to allow you to toggle on the fly between different classes, class 1, class 2, and even class 3, which is not recognized in Massachusetts. So it's a really interesting spot that we're at right now. And I don't think that this is going to be something that's going to clear up this year. And I don't think that it's going to be an issue that we can solve just through talking about it. Because until we regulate what actually comes into the states and until we enforce what we sell to people, these are going to continue to be floating around there. So, it's just an awkward space. But I'm really glad that at least we're talking about it and that people might have a chance to learn a little bit more.
Keep us posted here at MassBike if we can provide more resources or help with more research or connect with other policymakers, because I do think that we have a long way to go forward here. We've built a good document that gives us a good framework, but that's not action yet. So we will need to take steps.
Agreed. And that is something that I think is going to be voted on. Is that correct?
It depends. We might get a bill in the State House, but we also need to have this on a local town by town level. So talk to your local police department, because they're the ones who are the front line out there. If they're going to be out there stopping people on certain devices, they're the ones who are doing the main enforcement, frankly. It's top and bottom and middle and everybody. It's the riders, It's the shops, it's the legislators, it's the policymakers, it's the town select board members, it's the police, it's the schools, it's the parents, it's the riders themselves, it's the advocates. It's cool, though. It gives us something to do, frankly, and it's kind of a good problem to have because it means that people are riding.
We want to thank Mob Bike Shop and Cycling Without Age. And we want to thank Farah Naz of the University of Texas in Arlington. And we want to thank Bob Mittelstaedt and Asha Weinstein Agrawal of the Mineta Transportation Institute. And we want to thank our regulars, as always, Julie Richard, Josh Hagland, Kevin Burton, Charlie Lighthizer, Amy Ziering, Lindsay Sturman, Stacy Randecker, and I think I got them all, right?
Maybe.
And let me ask you, do you have a bike quote?
I have a post from Blue Sky that I thought I'd share. It's a study from last year, 2025. It's called Active Travel Mode and Incident Dementia and Brain Structure. The study finds that biking is associated with a lower risk of dementia.
I've heard that, although I'm not sure today I felt it, but normally I do.
You felt the dementia?
Well, I just felt discombobulated today.
That's funny. I did too.
Interesting.
Bike more.
Worry less.
I think we got a new slogan. All right. Thanks, Taylor.
Ride safe.
This episode of Bike Talk is sponsored by the law offices of Pocras and De Los Reyes, with offices in Los Angeles and Bakersfield and serving all of Southern California.
Bike Talk is a project of CRSP and the Los Angeles Eco-Village Institute. And that was Bike Talk. If you have a story, a tip, or a topic, head over to biketalk.org and send us a message. Talk again next week.
Oh, get that car out of my way. I want to ride my bike today. It keeps me fit, gets me there. I won't go stinking up the air. Leave behind the daily grind. Let your mind unwind. Live its life, pretend to life. Better get yourself a bike. Get on your bike, sit on the seat, put your feet on the pedal, and run all around, run all around. Get on your bike, sit on the seat, put your feet on the pedal, and run all around, run all around. Get that car out of my way, I wanna ride my bike today. It keeps me fit, gets me there, I won't go stinking up the air. Leave behind the daily grind, let your mind unwind. Live its life, pretend to life, better get yourself a bike. Get yourself a bike. Oh, 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 get yourself a bike.